Getting into DIY projects can not only save you a ton of money, it can give you a creative outlet to turn your house into your home. Today, we'll discuss how Whitney's DIY skills have led to some fantastic opportunities and a new source of income. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Expert Interviews. I'm Elle Martinez. How many times have you watched DIY projects on TV, seen on Pinterest, or even here on YouTube and thought, maybe I can do that? But what if you're not really the handy type? Where do you even start? I think you'll enjoy today's episode. I had the pleasure of speaking with my buddy Whitney Hansen, who's not only the creator and host of Money Nerds, but has some serious DIY skills. She loves to jump into projects, whether it's painting her house, building a new fireplace, or flipping some furniture. We'll get into why and how she got started with projects at her own place, how she saves doing DIY, and some of her favorite resources for learning new skills. I hope you enjoy. You're one of my favorite people in the personal finance space.
Likewise, ever
And-
since our FinCon times.
There's something about that when you're roommates, you just bond.
Well, it's partially because you brought chocolate and coffee too, which are like two of my favorite things. So hard not to love you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, you have to make it fun. One of the things I love about hanging out with you and Jen, our little gang, is just you enjoy life. You're always up to these exciting projects. You have the Money Nerds podcast, you're a financial coach. Today, I want to talk to you about you being the DIY queen, tackling on these home projects and everything. With DIY, everyone sees HGTV, they get an idea, they get inspired, and they're going to try to tackle it. And they're just like, what did I get myself into?
Mhm.
Were you one of those that kind of got inspired by what you saw on TV? I mean, there's different reasons people get into DIY. What was your kind of motivation?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think really where that initial confidence in DIY-ness came from was growing up. My dad owned a pallet distributing company. So we would, as a kid, my job to pay for any sports or, I mean, if I wanted gas in my car, like any way of earning money was I would have to go out and build pallets. I was like 10 years old using a Sawzall and just like going to
Yeah.
town and hitting nails and just like having a good time rebuilding pallets. I think that it taught me that you don't have to be afraid of power tools, which I know a lot of people are really scared of them, but I grew up very familiar with that. And so, using saws when you're like 10 years old,
Yeah.
it's a really good confidence boost. I think what happened is Tony and I had this moment where the house that I'm in right now, I bought this one when I was 19 and it was really cool. And we had this moment where I was trying to sell it and it would not sell, which is so crazy because today it'd be gone in 2 seconds. But
Yeah.
at that time, I couldn't even break even on the house. And I was for sale for almost 6 months, I want to say. We had this moment where we're like, we can't sell the house. Like, it's not moving. Maybe we should just move back in and just remodel it and make it kind of good enough for us, a place that we're comfortable with and save up some money. That's what we did. That's kind of where I got my first taste of what DIY, like larger scale DIY projects actually look like. So it was like ripping up floors and doing a laminate all downstairs,
Yeah.
replacing kitchen counters, doing backsplash, building a fireplace. Like it was all kinds of crazy stuff. But it came from desperation because I had nowhere else to live. Like I had to make it work here and make it comfortable.
You do tackle a lot of projects, and I know you only put some of them online, but it seems like you go pretty fast between you have an idea and you execute that. Is that always the case? Like I was amazed with the fireplace. First of all, looks incredible.
Thank you.
How do you do that in a weekend, or how do you plan things out?
Well, okay, so this is probably not the best advice, but I get an idea and I'm not a planner. This is so bad. I should be better about this. It would save my budget a lot sometimes too. But I get an idea and I might find something on like Pinterest or Instagram or like watching HGTV. I find something and I'm like, oh, that looks so fun. And then I immediately go home and start taking action. Before I have any of the details, I'll make a couple first steps. And it drives Tony, my partner, crazy. He's like, oh my God, you need to plan things, Whitney. But it's just not how my brain works. I just dive in and then I start to just figure it out as I go. Most of the stuff that I've learned is a lot of the projects that we think are going to be really difficult are sometimes not as difficult if you break it down into smaller steps. Like if you can visualize, how do you build an extra wall and frame out a wall so you can have an electric fireplace? If you can visualize just the wall piece first and then build that out, and then, okay, now what do I do with my wall? I have to drywall it. Yeah. So once you start to see the step by step, it's really not that difficult. Instead of just looking at the whole thing, just break it down really, really small. That helps me with my brain. I don't know.
Okay, you say you don't budget, but you're saving a significant amount of money with the exterior what painting of your house. I listened to that episode. That was fun.
Dude, do not recommend. Okay, so here's the rule of thumb. When it comes to painting the exterior of your house, we had to. It was due. It was the same paint job since 2008. We sat there and we're like, let's get some quotes. So we got some quotes, and it was anywhere between usually about 10 to 15,000 is what we were hearing. And that hurts my heart so much because I'm not a debt person. So I cash flow everything. So hearing that, I'm like, oh, do you know what I could do with $10,000? Like, instead, what I decided is we're going to try it. We're going to tackle it. It can't be that difficult. People do it all the time. We're going to give it a shot. We found some paint on Facebook Marketplace. A painter was selling, it was 15 gallons of this really great Sherwin-Williams outdoor paint. Yeah. And it wasn't the color I loved, but it worked out really, really well because it was just shy. I think it was either $100 or just shy of $100 for all of that paint. And so we purchased it, and that's the bulk of the cost because that's like what our main house color is. We made it work. We also bought a really expensive, I think it was $300 or $400 paint sprayer, like a Graco one. And that saved us a lot of time too. What we learned is that even having that paint gun and even paying that cost was still so much cheaper. And now we have the gun as well. So I don't know. It was worth it. It's scary because I'm scared of heights, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's incredible. But that's one of the reasons families and couples that get into DIY out of necessity and saving a significant amount of money. For you, how do you figure, okay, this is something I want to try out or I'm going to do versus I need to call a contractor professional, at least to kind of get an idea of the steps? Or are you just like, as long as I don't have to open up a wall, I'm good?
Oh, no, I'm cool with that too. Yeah. When I first got started, I probably never would have touched electrical or plumbing. To this day, I'm still a little bit intimidated by plumbing. I'm trying to work through that with some small scale projects myself of just like, okay, it's not that hard. You can do it, but it still freaks me out. Electric, I'm okay with now. What helped me with that is my Tony, his dad, it used to be an electrician. So he came into our house and taught us like how to do a new outlet. We wanted one in our laundry room. And so he's like, oh yeah, here's how you do it. Here's how you make sure you don't kill yourself. It was great. After that, I'm like, okay, we're good. We can handle this. So usually if I have somebody show me the really scary pieces first, I feel more comfortable with that. But most of the time what I've learned is everything is figure outable. Even if you get into something and you tear down drywall and you can't move a wall and you're like, oh crap, I thought I could, but now it's load bearing. That sucks. Put some drywall up. It's okay. Like you're going to survive. It'll be all right.
So how do you do that? Like, it's great to have someone who has that professional experience, but say it's something where you don't have a person to kind of go to and guide you. What are your resources?
YouTube, for sure.
Any favorite channels?
Yeah, actually, there's a guy that is a local Boise guy. So I live in Boise, Idaho, and he is a YouTuber. His name is Mr. Build It on YouTube. And the part that really resonated with me is at that time when I first started watching him, he was a physical therapist. No, respiratory therapist. That's what he was. And so that was his full-time job. And he's just showing you, hey, I'm going to replumb some stuff in my bathroom and I'm going to build a sauna and I'm going to do some new stairs. And watching that, I'm like, this guy has no training whatsoever. The only difference is he's confident and he knows that the solution is out there. And so that really inspired me just to take action and try some things.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you mentioned with your house, one of the projects was flooring. Was that like towards the beginning, one of your first projects, or do you remember your earliest projects?
Yeah, that was by far the first one. So at that
Okay.
time, when I couldn't sell the house, it was a rental beforehand,
Hmm.
and the carpet was just trashed. And so we had this moment where we needed to either replace the carpet or do something different. And I wanted more of a hard surface. I had a little dog at that time, and he was always in and out and just like tracking in all the dirt. And so that was really the first project that we did, aside from like painting walls and that kind of stuff. That was a little bit more intensive for us.
Gotcha. So besides saving money when you do the DIY, you've been also making money with
Yeah.
flipping furniture. So one, how did you get into that? And two, where did you learn how to do that?
Yeah, it kind of gets to the point where if you DIY your house so much, there's eventually not as much you can do anymore. You can always repaint walls and redecorate, and that's fun. At some point, I was kind of getting to the point where I knew I needed some other outlet, and it was either house flipping or being more creative with side hustles. Thankfully, my job as a financial coach is mostly helping people pay off debt, live on a budget, that kind of stuff. But a lot of that comes down to, can you earn more money? And I never wanted to be the type of coach that was like, hey, go do this, even though I would never personally drive Uber Eats or whatever it might be. I actually would do
Yeah.
it and think it's fun, but I would never recommend that to somebody. I started furniture flipping just for fun to show
Mhm.
people, here's how much money you can make. And it really stuck for me. It became a side hustle that I found really creatively fulfilling, and getting your hands dirty and playing with power tools on a much smaller
Yeah.
scale and not as expensive as like a home remodel project. It's
Yeah.
so fun. And honestly, YouTube, great resources. There's lots of really good channels. There's one that I'm a big fan of. It's called Salvage by Katie Scott. She does the coolest projects that are so beautiful. Watching her do some of that stuff is always really inspiring. But I don't know. I think it's just a fun way to make money. And honestly, you can easily make at least $400 to $500 per month if you're just picking up one project per week. And that's
Okay.
it.
How do you find these gems? And then when you say like you're flipping, what kind of restoration is this? Is this like refinishing it? Is this reupholstering? What kind of
Hmm.
projects are you taking on?
I find different pieces from auctions is number one. There's an auction site called HiBid, hibid.com. This is for all across the US. So any auction in your area, you can go there, you can bid on different items, kind of like eBay. And then I used to purchase a lot of furniture from there. Thrift stores, I have a dresser in my car right now because right after I ran an errand, I found a dresser to flip. So I currently have one in my car. I just picked that up from a thrift store for $45. But mostly that's where I'm getting most of the pieces. Facebook Marketplace is where I'm also finding furniture. Sometimes you
Wow.
need to do some work, and
Hmm.
sometimes you can just take cute pictures and sell it immediately. Usually the pieces that are most profitable do require a little bit of work though.
Okay.
Work meaning painting typically.
Typically, what's been your favorite project with the flipping?
Mm. One of my favorites, this one I thought was so fun because I was trying to creatively challenge myself. I started to do a lot of dressers. Dressers sell like crazy, just so you guys know. Anytime you find a dresser that you can repurpose, it will sell for easily $200 to $300. Like it's a good
Mm.
win. I was doing a lot of that and getting kind of bored of that same stuff. But I was seeing a lot of old TV stands and armoires and just those kinds of pieces that are beautiful but massive. I found this little entertainment stand with these tambour doors that everybody had, I think like the 80s or 90s. I don't recall exactly when. But I took that little tambour stand and I sawed off the base of it. So there was a drawer piece, sawed that off and put on some mid-century legs and
Wow.
sold that I bought it for $10. I sold it for 120. And that was so fun
Wow.
because it totally made it look like a mid-century modern piece.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. And I think that's the cool piece too, is once you start to identify,
Mhm.
oh, what if I did this with this? What if I, took this cabinet and I put on some legs and I took out the glass panels that are not so cute and did some burlap or cane behind that? What if I painted it? Once you start to do it a couple of times, you will see potential in so much furniture, but you have to like
Mhm.
train your brain to see it.
Yeah, I have a couple friends that are really good. Like we've gotten a lot of things around our house, like right behind me. I love this piece, like
Super
thrift
cute.
store consignment and everything. I have friends with much better eyes, but I think I'm starting to get it. Or at least I know when I like something and when I don't.
Yeah,
That's also a skill.
that
So,
is a skill.
but I think there's also another benefit to looking at thrift stores and, upcycling, flipping it's an eco-conscious, more conscious
Completely.
choice. And then some of these pieces are just incredible. It's like there's a little bit of history when you're fixing it up or, putting it in
Mhm.
your house.
It's the best. And I think you're spot on. When you start to see, I had to haul a bunch of dirt to the landfill over the summer, and just seeing all of the furniture that people throw away
Oh, wow.
killed my heart. So if you can find a piece of furniture and give it new life, or just fix it up, or you see something along the side of the road that somebody just threw away, figure out a way to repurpose that and try to
Mhm,
sell it as well. So it's doing a couple of good things. You're helping the environment, and you're also
mhm.
making a little bit of money and learning new skills. So I guess there's three good things, but I think it's a really great way to go.
Yeah. And I love when you can combine what you enjoy and have that be an income stream. Not that everything, all your hobbies have to be a side hustle, but the idea of like, I can be creative, I can do something fulfilling and meaningful and make some money on the side. Or if I need to make some money, I have a skill I can use that for is fantastic. Whitney, I know we just scratched the surface, but if anybody wants to reach out, what's the best way they can?
Yeah, the best way is probably through Instagram if you're looking for some inspo on furniture flips. I'm at Whitney_Hansen_co. And that's the best place to just get visually inspired to see what's possible. I try to share a lot of before and afters. And if you want to learn more about some of the furniture flipping, on my website, whitneyhansen.com, I have a very, very detailed blog post about exactly how to get started, what to look for, what to pay, how to price, how to stay
Ooh.
safe. All of that stuff is all in a really lengthy blog post as well.
Well, that'd be great. And I'll make sure I include that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Whitney. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Elle. I appreciate your time.